there are some people that do not know Shaukat Bhai. Shaukat Bhai is one of the most energetic seniors that I have come across here. He's an engineer by profession. He is a vice chairman of OSASCO. It is an organization of senior citizens of Ontario. He is a founder member of the Seniors Forum in Canada. He has been working on it for the last year and a half, 2 years, and there's about 80 to 90 members so far who have signed up for this. He is president of Pakistan Professional Education Forum, Canada chapter. In the past, he has been on the board of directors on YMCA Oakville. He has been associated with Sheridan College. There's a long list of names that organization has been dealing with. He has been working as a senior executive in European countries, in South Africa, and Middle East, and in Pakistan, Pakistan Phillips Corporation. So I would like to pass it on to Shaukat Huzvi. Please, go ahead.
Good job. I think most of the things I've already forgotten what I was. I don't remember what I was. Anyway, thank you very much for your nice word. First, I'd like to welcome you all. And I really appreciate and thank you that you, on my request, you have taken out time to come and share your experiences and your thought. And this is a very important meeting.
Shaukat Bhai, you are still, Shaukat Bhai, sorry to interrupt. You still, I'm on the screen. Big screen, you are not, if you could.
Okay, not a problem. Okay. That should look. I think if you go to the speakers,
yeah.
Go to the speakers view, then you will see myself. All the speakers. I suggest you go to speakers view.
Okay.
So, well, I think the 6th June has been a remarkable day for us. I mean, especially, for me, I've been the senior member of the victim family. Really, you understand what it means to us and our family. We're still suffering from that talks, and we are going through a lot of psychological issues and problems in our family. But I think this event, Allah Ta'ala has probably selected, is chosen people to do something bigger for the Ummah. I see some hair coming in out of that incident. And I will call that, I think it is a turning point for the Muslims in Canada. And the reason why I say it's a turning point, if you see what has happened, that the entire Canadian political leadership has publicly accepted that Islamophobia is real. That's a change in everything. They have accepted that we have a problem with Islamophobia. They have accepted it is a terrorist act. That's why the person was charged for terrorism. And they have also said nothing is done so far to resolve the issue. But that is one big change, this acceptance and realization of the problem of our community on which we have been working for a very long time, but were not accepted. And I do see some actions here, like action like the person has been given a charge for the terrorism, which means absolutely no bail. This is the first time it has happened. The federal has appointed the legal counsel to fight the case on terrorism on behalf of the federal. They have, on the request, they have called the National Summit on Islamophobia on 22nd July of this month. I will come to that later. So I think we all are here because we believe that Islamophobia does exist. We may disagree on the extent of it, but it does exist. And we also aware that there are inbuilt biases in the world against Islam, not only over here, throughout the world. But we have also got to accept our own shortcomings. We Muslims are divided, there's a reality. We are divided in maslak, in races, in ethnicity. We are not organized. We have a serious leadership deficit, and we have a very low tolerance to different opinion and belief. And we have an extraordinary low visibility in social charity drive, neighborhood, or in the community. So that is something we have to look into it. And I think it is interesting to look that how are we perceived in this country. You see, the 56% of Canadian, if you look on these, sorry, I have to go back. So you will see there are certain statistics. I mean, they don't see Islam as a very friendly religion for women. I mean, they support the hijab things for 10%. And it's also interesting that among other religions, very few of them believe that they would like to get their children married to a Muslim girl. Also, 51% support the government should be doing surveillance of the masajid or activity. I mean, they 31% when Trump announced the banning or restriction on the travel, they supported. And so there are a lot of wrong perception about us. I mean, they don't see it as really a good woman being a good person. I mean, and the number I'm showing you is a research done by certain organizations which are published available. You can see that. So that give us some sort of a, we should understand where we stand in this country and how we are perceived. So now there are two stakeholders or enablers in this country to go after this country and dismantling Islamophobia. One is the government side, other is the community. Now, after the announcement of the summit by the minister of, I think she's a minister of diversity and inclusion, the lady. After the announcement, now they have announced sort of a two summit, one on, I think the minister is Badishi Chakar. She is the Minister for Diversity, Inclusion and Youth. So they have announced two summits, one on 21st July on anti-Semitism, second on 22nd July on Islamophobia. And they were expecting from different organizations or leadership of Muslim that they should provide them certain inputs and recommendations what they should do at federal level, provincial level, and municipal level. So recently, many organizations, especially NCCM, has been very active, and they have been working with different organizations and collecting these recommendations and suggestions from the Muslim community for that Islamophobia. I myself has also prepared a paper on that, the recommendation of the government, which are given to MP Iqra Khalid with the request, because she's also the chairperson of the Justice Committee, and most of my recommendations are with the law. So I've given my recommendation to her with the hope that she will forward it to the minister, also send email to the minister. So, but that is something is happening in parallel. The other aspect is the community. And community means myself, you, Masajid, different leadership, different organizations, different advocacy groups, different NGOs. This particular session is only and only focused on the community side, because there are a lot of discussion going on the government side. So we have, and this is the first time that we are discussing this Islamophobia as an issue, as a united people, as a united platform to look into ourselves and do our own self-assessment. So the objective of this brainstorming session is to look internally and see what we can do. So it is a self-assessment of our individuals, of different advocacy groups, of Masajid and different organizations. So what we are looking and expecting in this session, what we want to achieve is that we get out of this brainstorming that we should be able to identify what are the critical success factors to go against Islamophobia. And once we get those critical success factors or key issues, then we like to work on it as a community. We'll do a brainstorming again. We'll look into a strategy. We'll be debating a thing. We'll see, and we'll try to find out the action plan. So in this session, basically, it is just a brainstorming to get those items on which we should be working. We are not debating on them. We are just collecting the information. Once we have agreed, these are 5, 6, 10 points on which we should be working, then the next meetings or following meeting, we'll take one by one, we'll go and discussion and debate everything. So this particular session, I want to emphasize, is only and only to talk about those actions which we as a community or as an individual or as an NGO or as an education group should be doing it. We are not discussing what government should do. That's a different forum. So I won't take much of time. We have some good speakers over here, and they have a lot of experience in the community to talk about this thing, that how we as a community should do, what we should do, why we should do. So I've invited a couple of people. So the first speaker today is a known person, is Mr. Taha Ayub. Now, we're really proud of having such a very young, energetic, dynamic leader in our community. He is a great human rights advocate. He is a writer. He is a impeccable, let's say, a leader. He is Islamic scholar. He has been very active for the last 20 years. You know him before he was the ex-ED for ISNA, and now, mashallah, he is handling the sound and vision, organization. So I am requesting him to give a talk to why the community should be involved, what should be their role. So, Brother Taha Ayub, it's over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Brother Shaukat and Brother Asghar and the team for organizing this beautiful session. I was not, first of all, let me, and I would say that thank you for that very generous introduction. There's some exaggerations in there, but alhamdulillah, we are all in it, and all this great work that's happening in the community, we're all in it as a team. And it's never about one person doing all the work, as you know, I'm sure from your own experience, alhamdulillah. I wanted to actually start off by sharing some of the statistics Brother Shaukat actually already has shared, but I'll still go over it, a couple of them, at least 2, 3 of them, just to sort of really drive this point home. And actually really Brother Shaukat already sort of laid the foundation for what I was going to say. So there's really not a whole lot that I'll be saying, but let me just share a few quick things. So first thing is, we need to see really how our fellow Canadians are seeing, how they're viewing us, what's their perception, and what really Islamophobia that we talk about, what does it look like in terms of numbers? Thanks to decades of systemic Islamophobia in this country, especially starting from the 9/11 era and Stephen Harper era. So what we know from statistics, various stats from different sources, 46% Canadians have an unfavorable view of Islam, more than of any other religion out there. 56% believe that Islam suppresses women's rights. More than half of people living in Ontario, for instance, feel that mainstream Islam promotes violence. 52% Canadians feel that Muslims can only be trusted a little or not at all. And 42% Canadians think discrimination against Muslims is mainly their fault. It's their problem. It's not our problem. And 47% support banning headscarves or hijab in public, compared to 30% of Americans, which is very interesting actually. And 51% support government surveillance of mosques and masajid, as compared to 46% of Americans, for instance. And 55% Canadians think that the problem of Islamophobia is overblown by politicians and media. So basically it's fake news. Nobody should worry about Islamophobia. That's 56%. The reason why I think these statistics are important for us to look at once again and review is, if you think about it, 1 out of 2 Canadians have a problem with Islam or Muslims. All of these, almost all these statistics consistently, 45 to 50% or more have a problem with something about Islam or Muslims. This is alarming. This is very, very serious stuff. If you think about it, it's like you're literally every other neighbor in your neighborhood actually may have a problem with you or what you believe in. And so that's number one reason why we need to be very, as a community, very concerned about Islamophobia, and why as individuals and as communities, you and I need to do a lot more than we have been. Another thing I just want to mention is, while the government has significant role to play in fighting systemic racism, discrimination, Islamophobia, common people like you and I have a major role to play in changing public perception. Because if you think about it, all of this, what you just talked about, is public perception. And yes, while media does have a role to play, and politicians do play a role in public perception, so much depends on also our interaction with our non-Muslim friends and vice versa. Another thing to keep in mind is that hate and Islamophobia at the grassroots level need to be countered with relationship building, with human connection, and with dialogue. That is the key, and that's the bottom line. Given the dehumanization of Islam, it is important that we humanize Islam, and we break those barriers, and we show the beauty of Islam through personal relations, through cultural displays, and through civic engagement. And another thing to keep in mind when we talk about community, why it's so important for us as a community to wake up, is that Canadian Muslims, mashallah, are a sizable, a significant, visible minority who should be active and productive part of the society. Who should be known for the civic engagement, who should be represented properly in media and politics. And alhamdulillah, things are changing. We're seeing that a lot more people in media and a lot more politicians, alhamdulillah, are happy to be Muslim. And that makes a huge difference. Think about it. We are at least 1.2 million strong, alhamdulillah. We're the second largest faith group in Canada. We have the youngest faith population compared to any other faith group out there. And we are highly educated, only second to the Jewish community. And we are a highly diverse community. These are our strengths. Not only that, studies have shown also that Muslims are more proud, interestingly, according to statistics, they're more proud about being Canadian than even regular common Canadians are, not regular, other Canadians are. So they're more proud to be Canadian. They have like, for instance, 94% shared a strong sense of belonging to Canada. Despite the fact that we always talk about back home, they have a very strong sense of belonging to Canada. And they believe that it is important. For instance, 89% of them say that they're satisfied with the way things are going in Canada. Of course, this is before some of the recent waves of Islamophobia that happened. But it goes to show, and by the way, other statistics have shown that Canadian Muslims highly value volunteerism, especially young Muslims, and they are highly engaged in civic engagement and politics, right? So all of these things are extremely important. And I'll conclude, inshallah, by saying a couple of things about the fact that studies have shown that when non-Muslims interact with a Muslim, or when a non-Muslim knows a Muslim, their previous hate for Islam or previous hate for Muslims transforms into respect and friendship. In fact, studies have shown in Australia, UK, many other places, where a person who actually used to hate Islam, and when they came to know Muslims or came to know a Muslim, their perception of Islam and Muslims significantly changed. They may not agree with everything, but that level of Islamophobia was not there. And the last but not least is, I want to quote actually something that Khabib, who is a very well-known fighter that you may be aware of, a young guy who's a very practicing Muslim. He said, non-Muslims do not read the Quran. They don't read the Hadith. They read you, so be a good ambassador of Islam. So the power to change perceptions lies with you and I. And mashallah, there's so many talented people right here and across our communities who are doing a great job in their own different ways without getting politicians necessarily involved, and with the power of the community. And So many examples that I can give. I wish I had time, but we have Brother Abdul Qayyum Mufti right here, who is doing a wonderful job at that hospital project, mashallah. I mean, that's a great example right there of people who are changing perception of Islam Muslims. There are events like Muslim Fest that happens, again, through cultural cultural dawah, relationship building, showcasing an aspect of Islam that you don't get to see. And common Muslims like you and I, all of us have that option and opportunity. So I'll inshallah end here, and I'll inshallah let the moderator inshallah take over. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share a few words. And yep, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I think Brother Shaukat, you're muted. We can't hear Brother Shaukat.
Thank you, Brother Qayyum. Very enlightening discussion, a good explanation of the statistics and making us realize where we stand and what the challenge we have. We have another very active social worker, I would say, from our community from London, Mr. Ashfaq Hussain Saab. He has been very actively involved in the London community for the last 20 years. He has been the member of Diversity, Inclusion and Strategy Committee. Have been very involved also with the Accessibility Committee. He has done, and he has got a lot of experience to share with us. So that's why I'm going to request Brother Ashfaq Hussain to share his experience and guide us what could be done. Mr. Ashfaq Hussain.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm going to build upon the foundations that Brother Shaukat and Taha have laid before you. And in doing so, I'm hoping to share the knowledge and experience that I have gained over these years in being an active volunteer. I want to start by just giving you a quick story, and I'm hoping that this story will help to make you understand how you can get involved in volunteering. Some 20 years ago, I left work because I was losing my eyesight. I was going blind. And just by chance, one day I got a call from a gentleman. His name was David Lepofsky. And he said, Ashfaq, I want you to, I need your help. I need you to volunteer. And I said, sure, let me think about it. He said, go to this meeting and sit around and talk with the individuals there, and then get back to me and let me know if you feel interested. So I went to this meeting and I sat at the table, and around this table were people with all kinds of disabilities. There was somebody in a power wheelchair, somebody in a manual wheelchair with crutches, a person that was deaf, etc. And I sat there and I said, folks, I don't know what I can do here. I know nothing about disability. And they looked at me and said, Ashfaq, don't worry, we know nothing about engineering. And the whole meeting was about a new design standard that the City of London were proposing. And that meeting led to this eye-opening experience for all of us. It gave me an insight into disability, something that I was going to be experiencing a great deal of, but it also gave those other individuals an insight into engineering. And so we shared our knowledges, our collective knowledge and experience, and worked toward building a better design standard for which the City of London could use. Some would say that, Ashfaq, you were lucky to fall into something that you enjoyed and enjoyed doing. And I take a different approach to that. I say this was fate that brought us together. Because at that time, I was searching. I was going into depression, etc. And I needed something to pull me out of that. And this committee meeting did that for me. And so over these 21 years, I have given back and to them far more than I will ever be able to take from them. And this is really one of the key aspects of volunteering. You go in wanting to give, and you realize you take back more than what you've given. And so how do you get involved? Well, as I've mentioned there, this is one way of doing it. You fall into it. But really, getting involved is no different than looking for a job. Because truthfully, you're looking to share your knowledge, all the experiences you have, the passion that you have, the desire for yourself to be involved. And you're looking for something which has that type of fit. And in return, what are you going to get? Perhaps a thank you, perhaps a cup of coffee, or a biscuit, or a samosa if you're lucky. Or is it that you're going to get the blessings from God for what you have given to this cause? And you have to decide what it is that you want out of it all. So when you look for something to do, make sure that it fits with what your desires are. You can go on the internet, you can go on Facebook, you can go on all these different things, social media sites, but you have to be cautious, because there you will find stuff that you will enjoy, you will like, and you will find stuff that will push you back and will challenge you. And that is not necessarily a bad thing. That is a good thing, because it'll only firm up your beliefs in that what you want to do is the right thing to do. And so you search for like-minded individuals who are going to share that experiences with you. You're going to look for like-minded individuals who you can bond with and create this collectiveness of togetherness, or as we would call brotherhood and such out there. You're not going to bond with everybody, but nevertheless, you will find something that is of interest to you. I've always believed in starting locally at the community level, because it is there that you build these relationships that will take you to the next level. If you're living in a city that is divided into wards and you want to volunteer with the city, find out who the counselor is for your area and approach them and say, look, I'm interested in doing this particular aspect. Where can I go? Who can I talk with? What suggestions and such do you have? You can talk with your friends. You can even go to your own center, your masjid, your Islamic center. If you're a senior, many of these institutions have organizations or where that are looking to provide services and such to the community. And you might be able to connect with them. But start locally, start small, and then just build and build. And you'll soon find that within this group of people that you're meeting and working with, in fact, you're networking with them, because as I mentioned, it's like any other job searching tool out there. You build upon those networks and you look for issues and causes that are going to be of interest to you completely. Islamophobia is another one of these things. It's always been around. It's just turned up in its different forms. 50 years ago, when I came to Canada, we treated it more as racism, because there we were being pushed back because of who we were, the color of our skin. Back then, people didn't know too much about Islam, but we nevertheless persisted and joined in our local communities and showed them that we are just like them. We are normal people. We share the same food. We've got different foods, and we want you to share our food along with us. And over these years, we built these bonds and such within our communities. After 9/11, the world changed for us Muslims. Islam was now given that boogie status, so to speak. And we have been trying since then to shed that boogie status. And the only way we can do it is to be out there, be up front, be in person. And as Brother Taha was saying, show them who we are, that we, the ones who are willing to sit down and talk to them, are the image of Islam that is true, and we remain faithful to that cause. So never shy away from that. Always be strong and committed to your faith, and it will light the path for you as you move forward. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I've tried to keep it brief, And I hope that, inshallah, you have learned something from all of this. So, shukriya.
Thanks for giving a great input about the experiences and motivating. You're right. I mean, there's a lot we can do, provided we really want to do it as a faith, not as a return or anything. So thank you very much, Shaukat. Now we have another great volunteer from our community, Mr. Javed Inam Saab. He is basically an engineer, and he has a couple of ideas which he wants to share. So now I would like Mr. Javed Saab to come and give a small discussion, share your ideas.
Thank you, Shaukat Saab, Bahut shukriya. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Brother Taha and Shaukat Sahab and the friend from London have said enough, not leaving much room for me to say much here. But anyway, I'll still do some suggestion and some presentation, just highlighting a bit of the history, not much. Canada, a dream country, and now home to many immigrants due to quality education, healthcare, and the quality of life. But social justice had been a very convincing factor to many, especially to the third world nationals. With the mass migration, the country started noticing cases of hate crime as early as in year 2006. But those were restricted to arson, vandalism, and melee attacks. Now such cases are on the rise since 2017 and have started becoming deadly. An incident of hate crime, whosoever suffers, irrespective of religion, faith, and community, is not only bitter, but horrifying and leaves scars on humanity. Islamophobia, yes, exists, but mishandled by the Western media after 9/11 and not properly taken up by the scholars on our side too. Canada is a country having multicultural mosaic, so the right of every individual, whatever religion, faith, or community he or she belongs to, is protected by the law. The Canadian Multiculturalism Act affirms the policy of the Government of Canada to ensure that every Canadian receives equal treatment by the government, which respects and celebrates diversity. The Act also recognizes Canada's multicultural heritage and that this heritage must be protected. So what is happening? Much work has been done on motion bills and laws to address Islamophobia, racism, hate crimes, but they seem inadequate and require aggressive approach to educate, to eradicate hate and spread love and peace. There's a saying, if wars were declared by love, there would be no tears of sorrow, only tears of joy. To me, my proposal is, the solution is to educate, socialize, interact, get closer, and bridge the gap among all religions, faiths, and communities. Just to go on further, if we could size up a bit on the magnitude of the task which we may have to handle in future. We are talking of almost 38 million Canadians living in this country, while Ontario and Quebec being the most populated area, Ontario is hovering around 14.8 million, while Quebec is something 8.6 million. While the government may do a part which they can, and Shaukat Sahab just said that the problem has to be handled jointly with the government and the community. And I believe just to share the further information of schools and enrollments would help the community to understand the magnitude of the task. According to Statistics Canada, there are approximately 15,500 schools in Canada, about 10,000 elementary, 3,400 secondary, 2,000 mixed elementary and secondary. The overall average is 350 students per school. As of 2019 and 20, number of students in Ontario was 2,056,058, while in Quebec, it was about 1 million. Now let's talk about how to educate the masses to counter hate and spread love, while the above statistics might help making the plans. Here are a few suggestions. Conduct interfaith conferences, seminars, workshops, and meetings frequently at common public places such as city halls, community centers, libraries, etc. Intermingle mixing of people belonging to different religions, faith, and communities, and celebrate all national, cultural, and religious days together. Invite joint events of happiness and grief in the neighborhood with friends and families of all faiths. Share gifts while giving caps, toys, etc., shirts, poster cards, carrying slogan of love and peace with neighbors. Involve individuals, organizations, media artists, poets, writers, singers, actors, whosoever we can, even if we can make some short movies on the subject for people to educate and understand. There is one thing which probably government, my suggestion is, it falls on the government side. The government shall make mandatory for all categories such as students, teachers, professors, doctors, engineers, blah, blah, to undergo volunteer program developed for this purpose and make a condition to qualify for a job or opening a business. A special emphasis shall be laid upon political elites such as councillors, MPPs, MPs who will run the affairs of the country, responsible for legislation and taking major decisions. Then the next one is again a dream, bringing the nation closer, build meditation rooms, prayer rooms for all the faiths at public areas such as airports, malls, plazas, sports centers, based on the occupancy and flow of traffic of personnel, and make it mandatory for the approval of the building plans by the city. It is far better to light the candle than to curse the darkness. I would suggest a well-studied, practically workable, comprehensive plan is needed for a better society, well-bonded community, and rising humanity to minimize the gap and building bridges. Now, question is who to lead and how to lead. This, the panel today, after hearing all the suggestions, could come up with an answer and a conclusion, who to lead and how to lead. My personal opinion is it's a national responsibility, must be led by NGOs, organizations, scholars, educationists, and individuals of all faiths. We have to work together with the other faith people too, having clear understanding of the problem and genuinely determined to make a change. You will find, there's a saying, you'll find peace not by trying to escape your problems, but by confronting them courageously. You will find peace not in denial, but in victory. So best wishes and thanks to Shaukat Saab, who gave me the chance to present my suggestions. I really appreciate having this time and hope friends will come up with a conclusion today on after the meeting or during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jai Nafsab. Good food for thought, very relevant point should be considered, and definitely they are worth doing it. I know your suggestion to go to different organizations and talk about faith. Here we have, I must recognize, we have with us Mufti Sahab. Mufti Sahab has been doing this job for a long time, going to different colleges, other places, and presenting some. So that's what you are recommending. Anyway, thank you very much. Now we have like a doctor, a urologist, a surgeon, and also a scientist. He is from Canada, but right now he is in USA. He will be talking to you from USA. Mr. Dawoodi, although he is a fellow in his field, I don't want to talk about his field, but he is a great researcher, and he did a lot of research and wrote a very thick book on the reason and causes of Islamophobia with facts and figure, and he tried to correct the perception of the society, what they have about the Muslim. He looked into, and he come to the conclusion that this sort of a Islamophobia has been purposely designed, developed, and has been methodologically sustained. So I like him to come and give his observation, what is found about Islamophobia, and also especially the Jewish community, when they were subjected to this, how they were able to rectify it. So Mr. Dawoodi, over to you.
Should I start?
Yes, you can start, and I am going to, you want your presentation now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So that is the one you have?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you to go on the next, but this is what it is. So thank you very much. And let me thank you all for organizing this. The agenda, and thanks for inviting me. So the agenda of this talk is going to be, let's define the problem first. What is Islamophobia? I mean, you already know about it, but I'm just going to formalize it. So what are the consequences of Islamophobia? What is the extent and scope of the problem? Why has Islamophobia campaign succeeded beyond expectations? Why has anti-Islamophobia campaigns failed? We have known that these people there are lots of people who are fighting it, but it has failed completely. And what can be done to change the dynamics? Can I have the next slide, please? So Islamophobia is more than apprehension of aliens. Apprehension of aliens is a natural and normal thing, but this is not it. Islamophobia is a pathological fear of Muslims and Islam. Fear is a very powerful emotions, and it can be manipulated, and it is always manipulated. And it has been going to be manipulated. It has led to demonization of Muslims and stereotyping. And it has been done in a very methodical way. Next, please. Next slide, please. So you all know this, but I just want to let you know, is it specific to Canada? Absolutely not. It is universal, ubiquitous. It is present in Europe, New Zealand, Australia, and since I come from India, Myanmar, Africa, African Republic. So the decision for this group is that where should be the focus? Is it going to be only Canada, or is it going to be beyond? So if you want to do only Canada, all you guys have great ideas, but then you are going to treat only the symptoms. You're not going to treat the disease. So it's always going to come back to you. And as you have seen, it is coming back. Next slide. No, yeah.
Why is not going to the next one? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think there is one missing slide. One slide is missing. Can you go back to previous slide? Previous, yeah. So what are the consequences of Islamophobia? Islamophobia is not a benign thing. It's the most benign of all the things, sporadic killing in Canada, Europe, and India. So we are very lucky that we are seeing only, quote unquote, only few cases a year. But Islamophobia has been used to bomb, invade at least 7 countries. When George W. Bush came to power, there was a meeting where it is documented, General Wesley Clark writes in his memoir, we decided.
we are breaking the net.
We are losing the sound.
To invade 7 countries in 5 years, and they have done it. This is nothing but war by terror, Somalia, Mali, Sahel region, and Iran. So these are all Islamophobia. So question is, Islamophobia is spontaneous.
But why it's not?
Yeah, we
It's
are
not audible anymore.
I think he should log out and log in again. Daudi Saab should log out and log in again.
So here is I would like you to know whom you are dealing with.
I think we should stop because there's no use.
Islamophobia.
Dr. Saab, he may log out and log in again. Maybe the sound gets better.
I will stop sharing it.
Yeah.
And I will ask him to log out and.
Are you talking to me?
Let's call him in.
Shaukat Bhai, you may want to ask him to verbalize it rather than presentation.
This is Islamophobia in one name or other is everywhere. As one of the speakers said, it's not unique to Canada. Our neighbor US, there are different kind of phobias. They talk about blacks phobia, Hispanic phobia. Is it Jewish phobia? You know, we just have this thing is somewhere closer to us at distance. Let's talk distance. In Pakistan, how many phobias we deal with, right? We deal with phobias every day. Is ethnic phobia, is religious phobia, is one sect versus another, blasphemy laws, how it's implemented, and minorities, how are they treated? So my only question is, I hope in calling it anti-Islamophobia, we're not overreacting. We're not putting cart before the horse. We should be sensible to the requirements or the conditions in Canada. There's a book I just sent to Asghar. It's not a book, it's a research. Black Secret of Canada is those residencies and students. So we're dealing with, obviously, I won't say our fellow Canadians. They might have different backgrounds, different originality, maybe from Europe, maybe someone else, maybe from our own part of the world. Asghar sent me a very detailed, which in fact, one of the speakers took it very clearly. And I just want to, now perception of Islam and Muslims. These are the perception from Canadians. These perceptions are based on what? Islam is a great religion, Quran and everything. We believe in that from the bottom of our heart. Are we practicing Muslim? Are we doing those things which are in Islam? No, most of us not. I don't say for everyone, most of us are not. So if the perception is 46% of Canada unfavorable view of Islam, it's not because of the Islam. They see us on the road, they see us practicing, see us doing things. That perception is because of that. Similarly, other things I don't want to go into detail on this one, but those perceptions, to my mind, They are not the result of what they have in mind. Partially, we have contributed to that. We may not have contributed 100%. I would, my humble suggestion, few of them, which probably has been already addressed, but I think we'll call it something different. Anti-Islamophobia, we call it, whatever you want to call it, but give it some positive, stay positive with this thing. And all the things I've seen is really not limiting ourselves. Someone should do research, or group or somewhere else, and we see, what is Islamophobia? Is it there? Objectively select action plan. We cannot be generic in terms. We have limited resources, limited human resources. As Asghar pointed out, we are at the twilight of our careers. I have not seen much younger people on this one, probably invited, not come, but whatever. I think we have to pass on this baton to the younger people. Have 10 professional people type of things going to next time. They'll be participating in this one, have an objective of different professional background, younger, under 25, because this eventually has to be passed on to them. Be part of voluntary. There's a presentation, very good presentation, where what can we do voluntary? The bottom line is, let us change ourselves. We have to change. We cannot change someone else. Only way we can change is if we change ourselves. There's a football match was in Europe yesterday. And I don't know if you have seen the videos, the behavior after the winning. And the winning was after in overtime and kickback and all that. It's pathetic. It's animal. You're dealing with in society. This is the most democratic country in the world, most educated country in the world. And the behavior was like animal. We have the same people all over the world. We have to be careful how we handle this one. And again, at the end, I would thank everyone. I would thank again Shapa Saab and Asghar and the speakers, done tremendous job. Let's move on and let's be positively promote this one so that we make the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashid. That were excellent suggestions. If I may request Mufti Saab, Qayyum Bhai has been, I know we've never met formally or informally, but I know of you. You do a lot of great work. Would be interesting to hear from you. You also have seen the paper that was distributed. Your comments, please.
Jazakallah khair. First of all, thanks to Dr. Shaukat Aziz Bhai and Brother Asghar and all the organizers for today's program. Alhamdulillah, very thoughtful suggestions have come across. Alhamdulillah. Just to let you know, as Brother Asghar said, I've been involved in politics as well, in the interfaith and federal, provincial, and local level as well. And also I give, by the way, diversity training to Halton Police as well. And I'm also the interfaith chair, was chair, actually founding chair. Just to share with you, just 3 days before the London incident, I was giving diversity training to the police officers from GTA. While I was talking about Islamophobia with all the statistics and all the background and so on, one of the officers asked me, "Oh, we know all this, but what are you doing to de-radicalize your members of this, your community?" So I just replied to her that, you tell me, point me any single community which does not have its extreme elements. And I'm not saying that the Muslim community doesn't have it, but I'm just asking you, just what happened to the south of the border just a few months back, in the Capitol Hill. And you cannot really blame anybody. And also, the other thing that I'm trying to focus on also is that we have to also address the issue of the focus of our law enforcing agencies as well. What happens is that people like me, when they go across the border, they love me so much, they hold me for 4 or 5 hours. They are basically wasting my tax dollars. to putting the resources where they will never find anything. With my over quarter of a century background here, with all the involvements, they are wasting my time, the resources, and they're not focusing on the issue where they really matter. And I told her that there are, FBI and CIA reports available, which says that the biggest threat to the US is from the right-wing extremists and these white supremacist groups, not from the Muslim community. But where is the focus? You asked me this question. But I've been involved, and of course, I'm a khatib also. I deliver khutbahs too. And in all these years, I never come across a single radical person whom I have to educate. And again, I'm not denying that there are no extremists. I'm just saying that there are so little in number that out of 25 years, I did not have a chance to meet a single person there. So that the focus, I talked to this same thing also to the chief of police as well, to the minister and the federal level and provincial level representatives as well. So this is something that we really we need to convey the message also in a positive term also. The other thing also is that my brother just mentioned about the Islamophobia. See, this is something, a term that has been now recognized, at the every level of the government as well, and also internationally as well. I don't see there is any thing wrong with that, because you see, the similar to Islamophobia, I agree with my previous speaker, respected speaker, that I agree, but we have to be positive. But on the other side, when there is something harm being done to a particular community or a group of members, same thing what's happening is anti-Semitism is also a negative term. It's not a positive term. So we have to call a spade a spade. We cannot just, and also one more thing I want to make sure, we cannot, when we talk about Islamophobia, focus on Islamophobia, that we Muslims are suffering. Don't dilute this term by including all other groups as well. Yes, we are standing against any injustices against anyone, just like recently what happened to our native communities. We really stand for that. We will raise our voices for that. But when we talk about anti-Semitism or the Islamophobia, we focus on Islamophobia, make sure that we have to come across all the systemic changes that can prevent all what's happening around. And also, I would like to also share this, which I also deliver in my khutbah, other places as well, that we are not asking for any charity or any extra favor from anybody. We are talking about the equal rights for everyone. We are not second-class citizens in this country, and we don't want to let this system have a two-tier system of A group is underdog. Their families feel afraid to even walk on the side roads and so on and so forth. We cannot have that. We have to be very, very humble, of course, but we have to be very confident. Just I will share with you, once a person was walking on the road, making like a miskeen, face. The Sayyidina Umar, that I know, he tapped his back. He said, "Straighten up. This is not the walk of a Mu'min. You don't want to feel pity on you. You are a Mu'min. You got to be straightened up. You're not, aggressive. You're not, ridiculing anybody. But don't feel, have others feel pity on you." So that is the same sort of stature the Muslim community feel, that this is we are talking about the right, and we are talking about the human rights, as a Muslim. So there should be a self-respect factor, which is very important. And the other thing I would like to focus on, I have coined a new term, and to remember this one, I have summarized the three essential ingredients to be successful for an individual or a group or a community in the whole process, the political system. And what is that? I'm just running quite fast, by the way, just to be conscious of the time. You heard that we've been using DVDs to record all of our programs and so on and so forth. So I've used that term to just use in my new terminology. I call it VVD. From DVD, I call it VVD. The first V basically is a volunteer. See, many times people come to me and they say, Mufti Sahab, my son is now hasn't done his 20 hours, so can you give me a certificate? I mean, this is the kind of our approach that we are teaching our children that even not doing anything and getting something without doing it is okay. And then also we don't want to volunteer. So first of all, volunteerism is very important, even in the political parties or the charitable organizations. The second V is a voting. If we do not vote, our numbers don't count. And the politicians will never ever listen to us because they see that these people don't take part in the process. So the volunteerism, and the second V is the voting, and the third D is to donate. Unless and until we donate to the political process, nobody will even care for us. Because see, from the back home mentality or the situation that is there, we know that if that is a Khan or there is a Chaudhry Saab with a lot of money, that they can win the election because they have to bribe people. But in this case here, there's a limit of even nowadays it's $1,600 per person. So nobody can spend more than that. So we need more people to get into the pool. So we need to donate. So VVD, volunteer, vote, and donate. Unless we carry on these three pillars of this political system, we will not be successful. So the other thing is, I will just conclude here, is that the forums are great. It's a brainstorming storm. We need those forums as well. But also we need to convert all this talk into action. And we can approach, we can discuss about more details later on, inshallah. But the minimum that I can do is that pick up the phone, call my local MP or MPP and my mayor and my councillor and whatever I can. So I believe in that. If I have done my part, at least the minimum, then I can expect somebody else is doing their job. But if I'm not doing that, even that little thing that I can do in my powers in my circle, that means nobody's doing anything. So if that is the kind of approach and the mental, this thing, otherwise we will never be succeeding. So that is, I think I'll just conclude for the short of time. So inshallah, jazakallah khairan.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. I'll just pose a question here. There's about 14 people here right now. Are we okay for another half an hour? Is everybody okay with that?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, I just had to leave around maybe because I have to start another meeting at 7 o'clock, but before I need some time before that. But inshallah, that should be fine.
Taking cue, Shaukat Bhai, taking cue from Qayyum Bhai, you mentioned volunteering and all that, which is the more important aspect of what we are trying to do here. Shaukat Bhai, if it is okay, can we just listen to Sister Nusrat maybe first?
Yes, but just keep in mind, we have promised people to have open discussion. So we need to invite the people to give their comments, right? And there, Sister Nusrat and also Brother Dawoodi could also complete, just summarize what is said. So I would like to invite you all to give your input on that. And again, I say, this is a brainstorming session. Now, I don't have to teach you what a brainstorming session is, but idea is to collect the ideas and suggestion, not to shoot down any idea, not to argue, not to discuss, just collect the idea. Then you will select out of them, and then in our next meeting we will work on debate on that. So Asghar Sahab has given some ideas already. Mufti Sahab has given, Khurshid Sahab has given some idea. Now I like to invite everyone to share the ideas and also share the experiences. So maybe I can start with Sister Nusrat. As Asghar Sahab said, can you share some ideas, give some input? Sister Nusrat, if you're here, are you still here?
Unmute. Can you unmute your Sister Nusrat?
Please.
You have to unmute, please. Shaukat Sahab, आप कर सकते हैं.
नहीं, मैंने तो कर दिया, मैंने allow कर दिया unmute करने का, but she will do it herself.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I wasn't really prepared to say much, but I can say one thing. And that is, without action, without getting up and doing something, we can never achieve anything. And so it starts with I. Instead of you, and you, it starts with I. What am I doing? What are the women doing? Because I see more of a presence of men and women who can really reach out to neighbors, because you start with your home and then you go to the neighbors. How many of your neighbors do you share your Eid goodies with? How many of your neighbors do you invite into the house? I have a Hindu neighbor who had a premature baby and he handed it to me for 48 hours because his wife had a stroke after the delivery, and I looked after it. I didn't look at the ethnicity. I didn't look at the need. My other neighbor relies on me and I can do things for them. I volunteer. Where are the women in this whole thing? And why are we calling ourselves the Twilight Zone or the Twilight people? Now we have more time than the young people who are busy building up their own, professions and raising families against all odds. Why? This is the best time in your life to volunteer. I am so visible in the hospice world here in Mississauga because I am one of the few Muslim women who are there, and there are very few. And they know me now. I've invited at least 15 or 20 people at a time in our house, and they see we live like normal people. We react like normal people. We hurt like normal people. We share their joys. I've been for funerals. I've been for wakes. And that's how we get involved. And they realize that we are not a monster. We are not something foreign. We are just somebody from this community. We are part of this community. Start with I and spread. Get your wives, your sisters or your older sisters to get up and stop calling yourselves, retired people who have to say. Shaukat Bhai is a very good example. He's a few years older than I am. I'm not very young either. I'm in my late 60s and I am disabled as well. So the person who spoke first, I don't think that there's anything that limits you. If you let your mind do it, you will do it. So some of the things I have to remember, Little Mosque on the Prairie, which showed common everyday people with everyday problems. And I think it was such a good ambassador for us. We need more people to speak up. I don't want to take any time. I think we need to open the floor for other people, but I could write some of my points to Shaukat Bhai, share them with them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I think we'll open the session, and anybody who wants to say, just raise their hand or write down the chat box. Feel free to give your comment. And also, first I request Mr. Daudi to just conclude, because now running short. We lost you. So Mr. Daudi, you just come and just conclude what you want to say.
Can I put some slides? Is that possible? Can you put some slides?
Which one you want?
Okay, previous ones, or otherwise I can go.
This one?
Can you? Previous. Previous, more previous. I just wanted to. I'll just shorten it.
Yeah.
Previous one, please. One more, and then one more. One previous. Yeah. So, just wanted to start. We have to know who our enemies are and who our potential friends are. This is kind of important so that you know. Number one, first of all, you must know that Islamophobia is a very well-planned billion-dollar industry. There are a lot of people involved, problems, enemies. They are born-again Christians. They are Zionists, former Muslims. They are neoconservatives, pro-Israel group. But the most important thing is that this military-industrial complex establishment, but we have potential friends. They are Sikh, Native Americans, there are certain church groups and certain Jewish groups, especially T-Slim. There are also anti-establishment group. They are not so-called liberals. Next slide, please. So that you know that whom we are dealing with. So this demonization campaign is not new. It has not came yesterday. There has been planned since 1970. In 1970, Benjamin Netanyahu put a conference and where he started that against Islam. Then it was in 1984. But the most important thing was that in 1992, Bernard Lewis presented a lecture in which where he told them that there's going to be an impending clash between Islamic and Western Christian civilization. But I'm just going to give you that it is not a specific for, it has been a it's not a spontaneous thing. It has been well planned. Please, next, please. Yes, next, yeah. So why do they demonize us? First of all, we have to know that there is no war which can be started without victims have to be being demonized. So when they are demonizing us, you know that the war is coming. And it is not only Muslims. The racism started during slavery time because they had to justify slavery. During the colonization, they called us savages because they wanted to colonize us. Same thing was anti-communist crusaders, then came Islamophobia. Now it is changing to xenophobia and Russophobia. Next, please. So these are the facts. We have to understand that war is an armed robbery. That is the reason why they are doing it. War is also a business. So what is happening now, they are not taking the money out of the other people. Now they are taking money from inside. They are the business of taking out the money from budget. But war is a racket. There is a transfer of wealth, but they want to say that they are fighting it for a noble cause. It creates pathological nationalism, and there is a permanent state of propaganda, and that is what it is. Unless until we know that there is a permanent state of propaganda. And what does it, demonization, do? It creates confusion among victims. So we are defending Islam, we are defending us, we are defending other people, we are calling that you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that. We are the victims. We have got every right to fight it, but there is also demonization justifies impending violence by the perpetrator.
I think we are losing it. And
And the sound is bad again. Yeah.
Next slide, please.
And here.
I think we are again losing it, and probably I will send the slide to the participant afterward. Let's go back to open the session for people to come and give your comments. Yes, if anybody who has any point, anything to say, please.
Islamophobia is built.
I just wanted to share some observations I had. I have attended few funerals of Muslims in Isna, Glen Oaks, and Meadowvale Cemetery. And I noticed that Canadians and the colleagues of the person, non-Muslims, used to join those funerals. On the contrary, I have not seen our people joining their funerals. I have not seen them, number one. Number two, in my neighborhood, I have a Chinese living in, and next door a Canadian. My wife makes sheer khurma on the Eid day, and I go in and just give them as a gift, explaining the 30 days of Ramadan. And in return, they have been bringing some cakes and some sweets and other stuff. So intermingling, mixing, and getting closer may help us in addressing our issues. So I don't know, maybe Mufti Saab is an experienced person and he have been involved in a lot of social works. Question to him that I've seen their people like Canadians and other non-Muslims coming into the funerals of our friends and families. On the contrary, I don't see us going into their funerals.
Yeah, something to be considered. That's right. Worth considering. Intermingling. Anyone else who want to comment or say something about it? I see
Yes.
Zuberi Saab, I don't know who is this, Zora Zuberi or Muil Zuberi. So please. So anybody else? Dr. Bashir Zulkarnain, I want to say something.
Naeem, would you like to say something, Naeem?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
The thing is that everybody, our kids, we have to get involved at all levels of the, the political levels. Whenever there's a campaign, whether it's, for the city council or the provincial or the federal, get involved with your local politicians. And as Mufti Saab said, donate and go vote. When you show your face, and they get to know you. Like I've been involved, for the last 50, 60 years, with the local communities at various levels. And that's how, I could contribute. And the other thing is, for this group, we have to put some organization, whether we have to decide, are we just doing a working paper? Or are we putting up, setting up an organization? Because there is a lot of, emphasis on, as you know, on Islamophobia, and there is all kinds of funding available from the various groups. Even City of London has, passed a resolution and asked for the input and the funding for the local groups, and so we got to set up a permanent organization. Who would be continuing it, from the day on till the doomsday. We cannot just stop, thinking, for the short term. It has to continue, and it's a battle, and we have to win the battle. It's not a war; it's a battle, and we got to go on all fronts, And the other thing is, the suggestion made, to get involved even within your own neighborhood, your neighbors, you go and attend their functions and invite them on your own functions. And so unless, we have to give back to the community, we have been taking it, for a long time. But you see, the thing is, and I'm sure, I know, alhamdulillah, a lot of people, have been giving it back. But more people have to give back. Every
It has to be
Muslim Canadian, they have to give back. It's my job to be involved, not anybody else. Unless I go and contribute, people are not going to come and ask me on my problems. So we got to keep our mind that yes, I have to get involved at local level and at all levels.
everything.
It's a daily struggle.
Yeah, thank you, Naeem. I think you're very right. Things start from us, and I think we should be starting donating and supporting in building a image rather than other things. We should be really looking into how can we improve and build the image. I see Sister Abida. Please go ahead. Can you please unmute yourself and go ahead? Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Do you hear me? Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, so much has been spoken to intermingling and taking care and get involved in volunteering and all that. These are all very good suggestions. And this London incident has awakened us, or awakened the Islamophobia much more in Canada. Earlier, we didn't care because it was hiding behind, and we were thinking that we are safe much more than the US citizen. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And in USA, they say that it's a melting pot and you have to get involved in the culture. And in Canada, it is said that it is a mosaic culture. So for the mosaic culture, you have to stay as you are, you have to dress up as you are, you don't have to hide your identity. But as we see that these instances have proven wrong, and all the family that was mauled by that boy in London, they were in their own culture dressing up, and all their identity was their dresses, that they were showing how they are different than rest of the Canadians. So actually, it's my points are that we should be educated first how to define hate crimes and how to report it. When I got my Canadian citizenship, I was asked by the in the letter in which I was invited to take oath that I should be dressed up in my own attire and whatever I wear. And so I put on a nice shalwar kameez suit and went there for my oath taking. And when I was coming out of the building in Hamilton, so a bunch of young boys, and they were with their mom, I think, and they shouted at me, "Go back to your country, go back to your country." And I just threatened them, okay, I'm going to call police, but I did not. And then I was told that I would have taken action. Why I didn't call police? I should have immediately called police to report this crime. This is a hate crime. Why did they do that? So we should not ignore all these instances. And then we should be, at least, the Muslim ladies with the hijab and their dress code, they stand out in the society, on the roads, on the malls, everywhere, more than the men. And they are, the first target of the hate crime. So they should be taught how to defend themselves, at least somehow. NCCM should provide a booklet, Know Your Rights, like earlier CARE, Council of Islamic Relation was their name. So it's still in USA, but not in Canada anymore. So the CARE provided us a small booklet, Know Your Rights. So they should provide this book, adding how to handling hate crimes. And there should be, a hotline for the hate crimes, for Islamophobia hate crimes, like 2511 or 611 or something like that. And this hotline should be provided to all Muslims, and they should report whenever they face any hate crime.
Good.
And then there should be this anti-Islamophobia laws should be imposed, like anti-Semitic laws. So we should strive hard for all these actions. This is very nice to be good neighbor, very nice to volunteer. Most of the Muslims are doing this, but still they are standing out, and because they are not, meddling so much in all the activities like the general public, so they are standing out. So I think these are my points.
Thank you, Abdia.
Thank you very much.
To discuss. Okay. Can we get some ideas from either Mr. Tariq, by Mr. Khamanias? Do you want to share something, Mr. Tariq or Mr. Khamanias? Or Dr. Zulkarnain Saab?
Ji.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think that the issue we are trying to tackle is a very extensive and international issue, like the speaker pointed out. seems to me that if we take it as a whole, we will have problems. And I feel what you need to do is to break it down into parts and then put the parts together. And as I see, there are three major approaches that we can take. Number one, on the political front, we have to look at it separately. Number two, on in a mass media, a newspaper, and social media front. And number three, I think, which is going to be very important, would be fundraising. Because as one of the speakers pointed out, we cannot really do much without fundraising. So my suggestion would be, if you could probably get three groups together separately to look at these issues and then put them together to have a comprehensive approach to whatever we want to do. Personally, I have absolutely no objection to this group being called and an effort to handle Islamophobia. I have no problem with that term. I think we have to have a clear identity of what we want to do, and that's what we are trying to do. Thank you.
Mufti Saab, you have to probably, please go ahead, Mufti Saab. You have raised your hand.
Just to pointing the point that was raised by our sister. I was also talking to the investigative officer as well, and they were also mentioning that the thing is that we do not report those hate crimes unless until we report every hate crime. Then it comes as a statistics number for them to work on, because they don't see those numbers. They see that there is nothing happening. So no matter what, even the incident that happened to our sister, if she did not report at that time, she could have reported later on as well, just to add to that numbers, that these numbers are increasing so they can see and they can do the planning. The other thing is that also, other than that, what we are going for other solutions, there's also our image building as well. That's very key. That we have to have a positive image for our Muslim community. And that's you already know that the Muslim community has pledged the biggest donation in Canadian history for $5 million to the Trillium Hospital. So Alhamdulillah, and that is a kind of coverage, as you know, it was covered by CTV and the Globe and Mail and everybody. So it goes on a very positive image building. And on top of that, alhamdulillah, based on that, for the benefit all the viewers here and participants, that the hospital has agreed to put a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ and his name with the Prophet and peace be upon him written on the external wall of the hospital. So you can imagine that thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, when they pass by, they can see that, oh, this is the same personality. We're trying to, Nauzubillah, mock his personality, but the same personality whose teachings are telling this community to help themselves. They help us. So these are kind of the areas where we can also focus on, apart from the direct approaches to on a particular area. But this is the community building, the image building is also very important. So inshallah, the information is with Dr. Rizvi. Inshallah, he can share it also with you to take part in that, inshallah.
Thank you. Can we get some comment from Mr. Qamar Niaz or Mr. Tariq or Zubairi Saiba or anybody else before we?
If I may.
Please go ahead.
Very short. A lot of nice points were raised today. And I think there are two ways of looking at it. One is to go politically, one is to go through organizations, one is report hate crimes, add to the numbers and all that. But I think it's more important to look at something else. All those numbers, the 45% and the 50% and the 56%, those are perceptions. Are Muslim bad people? We know we're not. Okay. But perception. So we have to change that perception. And I think one of the most important thing that Taha Ghayur said is that we are all ambassadors of our ethnic community, our religion, whatever appears when people look at me. So whether it's brown skin, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Muslim. So we have to also work from within us to make sure that our people also appear, are visible as good people.
When I was in Dubai, I met a lot of Hindus, and a few of them said that we all used to think that Pakistanis are very bad people, right? But you're people like us, right? Which is something that I think we can do without compromising on our values. We can make friends with people, and we need to make ourselves visible by, say, volunteering, right? How many Muslims, brown skins or Pakistanis do you see volunteering in a hospital or volunteering in a food bank or volunteering in other places? We are bad in that. I mean, even if people have time, they're not doing it. So we have to change the perception, and I think we need to add it to one of the items on the list, that how do we change the perception, because again, this is a very long subject. So I'd like to, I think this discussion is not over today, we just began. So among other things, this is something that we need to focus on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good points. Anyone else wants to contribute?
Shaukat Bhai, I think we're just about towards the end. It doesn't look like if there's, there's only two, there's two Zubaris, and I don't think.
Okay, that's fine, I got it. Now, so I think what I will propose, mashallah, a lot of good points has been mentioned.
Shaukat Bhai, please, sorry to disrupt you, but there's let me just say 2 or 3 things and then you please sum it up.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of issuing that letter was to try and segregate a couple of things. I have heard a lot of stuff today and some very good suggestions, excellent suggestions. But frankly speaking, we have digressed from what we started off with this one paper that was issued. Where we have digressed is we have not talked about, for an example, how to become a cohesive Muslim community. Nobody has talked about Arabs. Nobody has suggested anything to do with that. There is, this whole thing is a huge subject. What we tried to do, or at least initiate, was to separate the two, as you showed, Shaukat Bhai, the two distinct groups. One was the work with the community, and the other one was the political side of it, which again is a long drawn process. I would suggest that please, if we could initiate, we'll try and have a semblance of organization and put it into practice, because there's all kinds of stuff that we can talk about. I would suggest that I would prepare, along with a couple of my friends, another document that will be circulated, clearly indicating that this approach has to be defined. Zulkarnain Bhai just suggested that. It's a whole big part. Go and address piecemeal issues of it. It's a long drawn process, okay? So I'll prepare something and I have some opinion of some friends and circulate it again. And I hope that this group is not discouraged by what went on today. And I hope they are encouraged enough that they'll come back and participate, and let's make something out of it. Again, wo Punjabi or Urdu ka kya hai, wo Guftan, Barkhastan and Barkhast, that's it, you know, let's go. So I would honestly hope that this group will gel together and that we will come out with something concrete. Thank you very much. Shaukat Bhai, over to you.
शुक्रिया, मैं आप ही की बात को आगे बढ़ाते हुए what I say, I think we have some great input today and great participation. What I would suggest, just adding to Asghar Saab, we have got some points, we have captured some points. What I would request, if you want to give any other point or you want to emphasize, if you can send us in writing just like points on which you should be working. In the next meeting, what you want to do it, we'll just present a couple of points and we'll just take the top 3 or 4 and then we'll go into discussion, design the action items or action plan for the community. Today's meeting was, idea was just to get some points on which we should be working. So I would suggest once we have some more points from your side, Asghar Saab will add to it and then he will prioritize and we'll say, okay, now next meeting, we'll discuss those 3 or 4 or 5 points in detail and we'll go in the nitty-gritty of that discussion. So just to take it forward. So Asghar Saab's task would be to get the points from the participant, select them, the top 3 or top 4, and those top 3 and top 4 will be the discussion point for the next session. We'll take one by one and we discuss what action we should be taking. That's my proposal, if you agree to it.
Surely. That's the way to go.
Right.
Good idea. We should move on further. Good idea. Shaukat
Right.
Saab.
Yeah.
Send us the points and we will give our inputs and suggestions. And
Yes.
from there, we can move on further.
That's right. That's right.
And we promise that the next session will be better organized.
Oh, it was very well organized session.
We all learn
We
it.
had wonderful speakers, lots of
We had
ideas.
disruptions, you know, so.
So
ये
before
A lot of
मुफ्ती साहब-
ideas.
मैंने कहा मुफ्ती साहब जा चुके हैं क्या?
जी मैं कहता हूँ कल को
अच्छा,
जाना
मेरा
है।
मशवरा ये था कि मुफ्ती साहब एक ईद मिलन पार्टी रखें और उसमें डिफरेंट फेथ के लोगों को इनवाइट करें।
चलिए वो आप लिखे भेजिए, आप लिखे भेजिए वो आ जाएगा। We can talk
Mufti
about
Saab,
it.
Mufti Saab is a social worker
I know,
and
yeah.
even political, so he has an access to all such people even.
Inshallah, आप भेजिए, is a good idea. I think before we conclude, can I request brother Taha Saab to kindly do a dua as a closing so we can close it. Ji Ghayur Saab. If you are still there.
Don't think he's there.
Yeah. All right, so anybody wants to give any final comment?